Hello everyone, this is Mizuki Arts. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be turning plants, mostly ones I can find in my own backyard, into fairies. Our first fairy is going to be inspired by common haircap moss, which is this dark green, like star-shaped moss. It's really soft and really fond of like shade and moist environments. It pretty much grows everywhere, and it's oftentimes used as kind of a substitute for grass if someone doesn't want to like mow their lawn a lot, so they can grow some moss there instead. It's commonly found in North America, and it really does look like little clusters of stars, and it's really tolerant of pollution, so it's really kind of a hardy plant, and it really does well in like different soil types and stuff. It can pretty much grow anywhere essentially, and it does well in partial shade, in addition to like just full-on shade. I also read somewhere that it can grow up to 2 feet tall, which is insane and sounds wildly incorrect, but I'll just put that there just in case that's true, which is insane, but I guess I'm always surprised by stuff in nature, so I'll just ignore it. Anyways, for our character here, I gave her lots and lots of curls and texture because obviously moss is like super spongy, and there's a lot of curling and kind of carpety feelings to it. Having stepped on common haircap moss, it's really soft, and I tried to give that kind of curly feel to both her hair and her wings, and I put the stars all over her little cloak there, and on her face too. Really wanted that texture, as well as the stars, to be kind of like all over the place, so that she really was reminiscent of moss. Before we get too far into the video, I'd like to give a quick shout out to my Ko-fi supporters, who are Ashley and Michelle Kelly. Thank you guys so much for supporting me once again. I'm really proud to make art that you guys like so much, and to be able to have your support. So thank you guys so much, and let's get back to the video. I also tried to pull on the red stems that common haircap moss has, which is good that it had that, mostly just because it gave me something more to work with than just, you know, green. In like one shade of green. So I gave her a pretty warm skin tone and a darker skin tone as well, just for a little bit of contrast. And I wanted to use that red on the stars and in her wings a little bit, and I tried to give it kind of a stem-like shape, at least in the wings, just as a callback, as that's where it's located in the plant. And I gave her a darker green skirt. It's kind of a cool green too, and I tried to do some dappling on her wings. This is mostly just a callback to the fact that it thrives so much in like shade, but also the plant has lots of layers of those star shapes, and the stems kind of grow pretty close together because it grows in clumps and like grows outwards and not necessarily upwards. So there's a lot of like layered shadows when you look at the plant itself, just because first of all, it's growing in shade, and also the layers and kind of proximity of the stems kind of create more shadows on it, if that makes any sense. Something I have absolutely no justification for is like her winter clothing. Like, she has gloves in this like fuzzy corset, and her cloak, of course, and that's like very fuzzy, and her boots look like practically slippers. I have no justification for this other than I wanted to put the mossy texture everywhere, and there was no other way I could do it that would look normal, and even some of her clothes already look like weird, like her fuzzy corset. I'm pretty sure a fuzzy corset is not a thing, but that's what she has on, and I have no justification for it other than I wanted to include the mossy texture, and I wanted it to look like at least some of her clothes were made of moss. So I really like this design, but there are some things that just don't make sense about it, but I love it anyways. So on to the next one. Let's hope the next one's a little bit easier. here. Wish me luck, guys. Because the first design went so well, the second one was a lot of fun. Actually, all these designs were really fun. But anyways, the second one is going to be poison ivy, a plant that's pretty much all over the world. There are a few different types, I think, but I couldn't really find any articles that kind of showed the kind that I was thinking of for some reason. Pretty much all of the articles that I found were about trying to get rid of the rash, or like irritation, like home cure type of thing. But anyway, speaking of rash, poison ivy is an allergenic plant, meaning you can be allergic to it, and that's what causes the irritation that poison ivy is so known for. The reaction actually comes from the sap, although the chemicals or whatever that people are allergic to can be found throughout the plant usually. Poison ivy sometimes grows on a vine and sometimes on a bush, and it can even have flowers, which is really interesting. But something that's kind of throughout the family or species or whatever you want to call it that is poison ivy, is that the leaves are shiny, which typically I believe comes from the actual sap that does cause the reaction. So of course for our poison ivy, I had to keep all these things in mind, as well as trying not to make her look like some kind of strange DC fan art. Her dress ended up like really weird looking. I really went all over the place with her design. Like I wanted it to look like she had two poison, or I guess 3 poison ivy leaves all around her as one dress, but I gave it like a button in the middle and I made it like a separate shirt, skirt, and pants combo. I don't really know what was going on, but I gave her lots of bottles, one with even like a skull written on it, because I figure she dabbled in like poison making and stuff, being that she's inspired by a poisonous plant. And her makeup was really fun because I got to use lots of red, because of course that's in the plant, and also lots of green. I added some at her fingertips too, just because the plant, you know, has that gradient, depending on which picture you look at, between like green and red and such, and it's really pretty. So I gave her a pretty pale skin tone to try and highlight those colors, and of course I echoed that kind of ombre or gradient in the wings. I gave her these red straps across her chest, because some of the vines on poison ivy are red while the leaves are green, and I tried to bring that throughout her shirt. I tried to balance between the two, because even though poison ivy is primarily green, the amount of red or like pink in it is pretty significant. I tried to make it look like she had like a pretty volatile or reactive like personality, because depending on whether or not you're allergic to poison ivy, your experience with it may be very memorable, or something that you may not even realize happened. Just to avoid making her look like any DC variant of their poison ivy character, I decided to give her pink hair. My instinct was either blonde or red, but of course both those colors look good with green, hence why DC decided to make versions of their character using these hair colors. But giving her pink hair had its perks too, because I chose a tone that was kind of similar in tone to the green that I was using on her dress. So in the end it makes her look like kind of a flatter colored character, which kind of pulls on the fact that there are so many plants that kind of look similar to poison ivy, so in many cases the plant can be easily missed while you're like, you know, climbing through undergrowth or whatever. I don't know, I don't go hiking. That's it for our poison ivy character design, guys. This one went pretty interestingly, but I still like how it came out. I feel like she looks like she could either really like you or really judge you pretty harshly. But for this next character design, I decided to go with a flower. I went with early blue violets, which are a very, very pretty wildflower common in Northern America. or I guess just North America, you know, the continent name. Anyways, they have kind of this varied pigmentation. Like obviously there's kind of a gradient from the center and outwards. It gets more vibrant in each of their 5 petals. There's usually some yellowing at the center and this fuzzy patch in the middle for like pollination and stuff. But overall, they're usually very purpley. They've got these veins in their petals that look really pretty too. Yeah, I've been calling these Johnny pop-ups forever. I don't know why. I guess I just got the 2 flower types confused when I was younger, but regardless, they're not the same, so I don't know. But anyways, these are some of my favorite wildflowers, and some of my favorites to find in my backyard. I've actually used these flowers in another video of mine where I used dried flowers in my art, and that was really fun. They're still super pretty when they're dried out. They're just absolutely lovely. So for our character here, I decided to really hone in on the shape of the flower, and I turned it kind of upside down for both the sleeves and the dress shape, and I also used it in her hat and used kind of the petal coloration and almost the petal shape in the wings. I actually messed up on the sleeves too for the shape of it. You'll notice each sleeve has a different shaped like frill at its ends, which is an interesting mistake on my part, but regardless, I do really like her little sundress. I made it flare out at the bottom, and I gave her these tights because the stem of the flower actually has this really interesting coloration. At the top, it kind of starts at this magenta-y type green, and towards the bottom, of course, it gets more and more green, which is really, really cool. And I got to layer all these fun purples on the sleeves and the dress because of the ombre in the flower. I tried to use both the more vibrant shades and also like the more lavendery, softer, almost more blue shades. I really wanted to include both color variants of the flower that I've seen before, so I really tried to use both, which gave me a lot of shades of purple to work with, which was really nice. And I tried to use that interesting stem coloration on her little hat there. You'll notice it's kind of purpley instead of more of a green color, just because, you know, I'd seen the stem before, although I really didn't find any good pictures of the back of the flower, so I didn't get to reference that, and unfortunately they're not in season, so there's that. But I tried to include the little veins on all the petals too. And for her hair, I decided to go with this auburn color, mostly because I wanted vengeance for not feeling justified in using it in my poison ivy design, but also because it really does pair well with the purples and look nice and contrasted. Overall, I just wanted her to look like really happy and carefree, because I know when I see this flower popping up in my yard or at parks or whatever, I know that it's springtime, and I know that summer and all things fun and warm and sunshiny are coming, or are already there even. I gave her these big bushy braids too, just so that her hair wasn't like, you know, free and in her face. Even though it's pretty loose, I didn't want to give her anything like rigid as a hairstyle if she's supposed to be carefree. And I gave her a basket full of some kind of green bushy plant. I'm not sure what it would be, but maybe if she's gardening, it's some kind of herb or an assortment of herbs. And then as the final touch, of course, I applied sparkles everywhere. Later, I did end up adding some flowers to her herb basket, which you'll see in just a moment. And of course, I gave her some white lashes, not just because that's my art style, but also it kind of mimics the coloration of the plant and those white fuzzies in the center of it, if that makes sense. And that's it for our third and final design of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know if you want me to turn more plants into fairies, because honestly this was the most fun I've had doing a video in forever. I just really felt like I had a lot of fun with the designs, and I did like thumbnail sketches and everything, which my Ko-fi supporters will get a little peek at. Anyways, let me know which design was your favorite. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!